Hey everybody, and welcome to Scouting the League. It's Christmas week. Merry Christmas. We hope, I know Neil hopes that you are at home with family, with somebody close to you, enjoying some football games, enjoying some good food, enjoying all the season has to bring us. As we'll get to today, there can be some turbulent waters this time of year. People at home not going to sleep well. Job status is on the line. A lot of different stuff goes into it this time of year. Unfortunately, for a lot of us in the football world, this is as busy a time as ever as college football winds down, the portal's open, NFL football gets closer to the playoffs, and teams are officially eliminated, which means perhaps some owners are going to start making some moves. Before we get into all of that, make sure you head over, like, subscribe, share, give us a little Christmas gift. Let us know how much you like the podcast, or if you don't like it, again, you can stick some coal in our stockings as well. Let us know where you think we should improve upon. Again, been great getting some feedback lately from all across the sports world. Hopefully you guys are liking what you're hearing, liking some of the insight we bring you. Neil is always at Inside the League on X, his website, InsideTheLeague.com. We'll talk a little bit about all the services that Neil brings with that Inside the League, as well as kind of maybe a Christmas present that you could think about getting yourself next year if you're serious about getting into the football world. I am Rodrik David at RightStepADV on X is where you can find me, rsafootball.com. Make sure you check us out on YouTube. Our YouTube videos, it is the podcast. There's some nice highlights sprinkled in there. Again, whether it is a positive or negative that you have to see our faces from time to time, at least our guests, again, Eric Stokes last week, guys like Jordan Reed, Dane Brugler, Dane Vandernat, a whole long list of people from across the sports world that are much better looking than you and I, Neil. I think you agree, at least on my side. Good people that have been on the podcast, and so make sure you go check out those that YouTube video.
Nowhere to go but up, Rodrik. That's for sure.
That's if people get used to us and can watch us, then again, the guests are always just like a cherry on top. So big weekend of games. College football playoff. We go from, it seemed like just yesterday we were at a BCS and, arguing about two teams. We expand to 4, and of course we get the perfect storm last year of 4-5 and balloon up to 12 this year. Of course, there's still going to be debate. There's always going to be debate. It's good for college football. Again, the media pundits, whatever you think about some of the talking heads on any network out there that, again, sometimes make valid points, sometimes don't. 12 was a big number to jump to. We saw it this weekend, really home seeds dominating. Some of those questionable teams on the back end not looking quite like the team that maybe played all year and had good records, or played exactly like the no wins versus ranked opponents that we saw. So again, the argument can be made for a lot of different sides. What was your impression? Again, good, bad, college football playoff committee. Again, what was your kind of initial impression of the one game Friday and the 3 yesterday?
A couple impressions. Number one, I think, Ohio State did what I expected them to do. I'm a big SEC fan, but I think Ohio State has kind of been overlooked a bit because of the way they ended the season, and recognize that. But rivalry games, you throw out the records. You never know exactly quite what to expect. This is still a very talented team. It doesn't have the star quality, the star power at quarterback maybe that you want to see that the great teams tend to have. But I think otherwise, it's really pretty loaded across the board. And
if Will Howard plays like that, they don't lose to Michigan, and they may beat Oregon earlier in the year.
I mean, I think Howard has that dreaded game manager tag, but what's wrong with that? If you are efficient and can make the plays when you need to, and you've got a great surrounding cast, then that's more than enough. And certainly was more than enough against Tennessee. I thought Nico impressed to some degree. I thought he made some plays kind of late and never gave up, but at the same time, this was just an overwhelming performance by the Bucks, and I don't think anyone was beating them last night. I was really, really impressed.
Yeah, that defense was, again, the Jim Knowles defense, and you'd seen it. They'd done it to a bunch of more seasoned quarterbacks.
Sure.
Nico was absolutely lost in that first quarter.
Right.
You saw that. Again, I think 3 of the first 4 times he dropped back, he took 3 sacks and then had 1 batted away.
Mm-hmm.
But again, you can find the positive. fought. He took some shots. He won with his legs. A lot to look forward to for that Tennessee team, but they were just, again, they were clearly an inferior team last night. And again, the Buckeyes got a great shot to get some redemption. And if they can keep this momentum, play the best at the right time, this is going to be a hard team to beat. So what about those other games?
I know it's been billed as 4 blowouts. I thought the Texas Clemson game was a sneaky non-blowout. I mean,
Yeah.
I really liked the way Klubnik hung in there. And granted, they lost by what? Was it 14? Was it 10? I can't remember.
Yeah, it ended up getting stretched a little bit at the end.
Yeah, but they were still playing. They still had a ball game in the fourth quarter, and I liked the way Klubnik kept bringing them back. And I'm still really ambivalent about Quinn Ewers. I still keep waiting for him to take that step forward to carry the team. And I just, this is a running game. This is a clear running game win for Texas. And I know that one hand washes the other, but at the same time, I'm still just not as excited as I wanted to be about Ewers. And I think Texas has a good team, but they certainly weren't as impressive as Ohio State, who was. They probably were, to me, among the 4 big winners, probably the least impressive. And so despite the fact they've kind of got that gaudy ranking and some pretty high expectations, they need to be careful, I think. They could be in for a surprise against Arizona State next week.
Yeah, that's, again, the Quinn Ewers, again, I thought he looked as comfortable as I thought he had in a while. Again, maybe he's a little healthier. Again, having the end of the year to prep a little bit. I thought he looked as good as kind of the Quinn Ewers maybe I was expecting at the beginning of the year to then build on through this year. Mm-hmm. Again, now we're sitting here in December. He's got 12, 13 more games under his belt, and it's like we're still asking these questions. Mm-hmm. But I go back, the football comes out of his hand really easy sometimes. And again, that offense with Sark, all he has to do is hit the open throws that are there. And again, Texas is going to be a hard team to beat. Now, you see the opportunities. He still had 1 or 2. It's like, man, you got to hit that one. And again, Texas looked good. They were in control of the game. Huge credit to Dabo, huge credit to Klubnik and that entire Clemson team. Again, they were getting slapped around all year. They came out, did not look good against Georgia week 1, and it was Clemson's done this year. And again, even they stumble a couple more times, again, and not back in. They win their conference. They get in the right way. They put up a good fight. And then, we see Dabo already dipping into the transfer portal a couple times here as he decides that he can't avoid it anymore. Again, this Clemson team, as long as Dabo's in charge, they're going to be a good, competitive, non-easy out at any point. So again, you get maybe the most two premier programs, Texas and Clemson. So again, if that's the game that you want to point to, that, hey, this is why it's set up and structured with 12 teams to get a Clemson in there and, again, give Clemson a fighting chance. You can make the argument. Again, Texas is going to have to continue to improve, win at the line of scrimmage, which they did, make some plays on the back of Quinn if they want to keep rolling. And, again, like you said, that sneaky Arizona State team, I don't think at this point you can overlook them. But, again, we're still talking about, early 20s college kids, and you never know what's going to be going through their mind. What about the Indiana Notre Dame? Any thoughts on that one?
I think Indiana, it's disappointing. They weren't playing their best football in the fourth quarter of the season, and it showed, in their 2 really big games. And I think that I'm still bullish on what Kursignetti's doing there, but this is not their year. And I think that was pretty clear cut against Notre Dame. We saw that. And then Penn State kind of showed the difference between the Big Ten and the teams that aren't in the Big Ten, and I guess it's left to Boise State to kind of carry the mantle for those from the G5 teams next week, and we'll see where that goes.
Yeah, I thought SMU looked tight. Again, they had a couple of those plays where, again, if they make the play, it really changes the tenor of the game early on, and they just looked like a tight team that knew they had to play a perfect football game. And as soon as one or two of them, again, you can't score 14 points on one drive. You got to take it one drive at a time. And they looked like a team that, hey, when things started to go bad, you had to try to make up for it all at once, which, again, as soon as you start doing that, it's going to be tough sledding. And again, Signetti, Indiana, again, came out of nowhere. Their tackling was atrocious. That was really the takeaway that I had, was for as good and competitive as that defense was all year. They obviously scored a lot of points and put themselves in positions where they could play a little different style defense. But man, they had Notre Dame stopped dead to rights, third and longs multiple times, and just flat missed tackles. And again, you want to call it athletes. You just got out athleted by Notre Dame. That's probably part of it.
That'd be
But they
my
had good players in position. And again, I believe Coach Haynes, the defensive coordinator, had some good play calls. They had some stops, and they just couldn't get it done physically. Again, would expect that staff to be looking really on that side of the ball, and they're gonna score some points. They're gonna be explosive. So we're gonna have some really good games next week. Any of these games stand out to you? Which one are you really excited about?
I'm not real chalky this time. Of the four, I kind of like Arizona State with the upset over Texas. And I think Ohio State keeps it going against Oregon. I mean, Oregon's been riding high all year. It's well deserved. They've got a great team, but I do think Ohio State's on a mission. They've also kind of got that advantage of having lost last time, so I think they can play a little more loose now. Yep. And I think they're going to be a real formidable game for the Ducks in the Rose Bowl. And I expect Ohio State to win that game. As for, I think Penn State probably wins easily over Boise State. I think this is the first defense that Ashton Genty's faced that's really going to test him. And Notre Dame.
So if he goes for 150 plus, are you going to double back and give him the Heisman now?
I think that I'm going to credit the Heisman voters. I think they made the right call there. I think that's pretty much chewed meat between you and me, Rodrik, as we know. But Notre Dame, I mean, I love Georgia, and I would love to pick them in an upset, but without Carson Beck, I just think that's going to be too tall an order, especially given
the momentum. Georgia winning would be an upset for you?
It would be. Georgia winning would be, yeah. I don't expect them to win without Beck. I think that'd be really, really difficult against Notre Dame. I don't think it's going to be a blowout. I think it's going to be a good, tight game, but it's just going to be it's a lot to ask for with a backup quarterback there.
Yeah. No, I'm with you on the Georgia Notre Dame. Again, that is, I actually picked Indiana. I thought they were going to be able to score some points.
Yeah.
But now I'm going to turn around and pick Notre Dame to beat Georgia again for backup quarterback reasons. And again, you saw that Notre Dame team can run the football now. Cool. And again, Riley Leonard, he got bailed out. I don't love Riley Leonard, but for all the fun that he can. For all the mistakes he makes, he still makes some of those just like, all right, backyard football plays. Right. Guys play hard for him. Guys bailed him out. And again, I expect that to happen again. Again, Ohio State, hard to pick against them. Again, they are the more talented roster. Whether they can play like that against Oregon, I think Texas. I think Texas is going to walk away with that one, and then I think the Penn State Boise game is going to be the really fun one, where again a lot's going to be put on Drew Aller for the way Penn State dominated that game. He was just okay. Mm-hmm. So again, can he step up and look like again a top 3 2026 quarterback, or are they going to rely on the run game and just try to out physical Boise State and just use our two backs against your Heisman Trophy candidate? And again, just it's going to be a good old school, low scoring, cold weather playoff football game. So that one will be fun to watch.
I was mildly surprised that Aller didn't take a step forward in that game, but I wonder if it's because he's already made it clear he's not going to enter the league, and so maybe I don't know, he wasn't quite as sharp because those expectations weren't there, and he didn't feel the pressure of it. Maybe that made him a little I don't know, maybe he just wasn't as up for it, but didn't have to be, obviously, and there's still a lot of football to be played, and I think he'll come back a lot sharper against Boise State.
Yeah. One of the things that is Saturday was rolling along, and the results of those early games, online world, the Twitter world, the social media world was heavy on the SEC bandwagon. And again, you could say for right reason, again, for reasons that you can make the argument for. And one of the things that I was thinking about, obviously Tennessee didn't show up, which again, maybe silenced them a little bit. Something I think about with every conversation, whether scouting, whether you talk college football playoff, whether you're talking, what we're going to get into with coaching hires and whether people should be, it's not about arguing against any of these teams. It's hard to argue against Indiana making the college football playoff. You can make the argument for. The argument for Indiana making it was a valid case. The argument for Alabama making it, they had some arguments as well. South Carolina, Ole Miss in there as well. You make the argument for these players. Again, it comes down to draft time, arguments for taking Travis Hunter number 1 overall. You think about, arguments for Jaden Daniels, again, with what he pulled off this weekend against the Eagles coming back there, probably securing the Rookie of the Year with that performance, even though there was some ugly too, maybe Dan Quinn securing the Coach of the Year, making the argument for. Again, it's one of those things that you don't, in a draft room, when you start talking players, don't tell me what he can't do. Tell me what he can do. And I think about it again with the way the college football playoff played out this weekend. You can make a really good argument for any of those teams. And now that we're down to 8, you can make an argument for any one of these 8 teams winning for the reasons why they are here. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be good football. And again, there's going to be lots of reasons why every one of these teams can win, should win. And ultimately there's going to be 4 teams moving on.
Roderick, do you think we saw so many blowouts because 12 is too many or because we had the wrong 12?
No, I think you're talking the 4 lowest seeds, 9 through 12. That's different than what your top 4 are. And again, we've just made the case that we think at least 2 of these teams are the top 4 teams. If not, the 4 teams that played this weekend all of a sudden get in there, and the top 4 seeds all of a sudden were playing this last weekend. So again, you're talking that there is a difference between those. And I think that shows up almost every year. Again, we talked about it. Last year, there were 5 teams that were clearly in the argument. 5. This year, again, if you wanted to, try to whittle it down to top 4, again, I think it would have been a tough conversation. But again, what 4 are you taking? Again, those top 4, top 6, top 8 really separate themselves. I think it just showed this weekend. I don't think 12 is a bad number. How we get to that 12, I think could use some ironing out. Again, I don't think there's necessarily objective metrics. There's always going to be a subjective nature because of the number of teams and the number of games. It's going to be hard to look at true head-to-heads. Hard to look at conferences is the way the conferences are going. But again, it's the 1 through 4, 5 through 8, and 9 through 12. Again, you just got 3 tiers of teams, and it just showed up this weekend, in my opinion.
I don't know that there's an argument for having the G5 conference winners in there, and I know it's easy to beat up on them, or at least beat up on SMU given their performance in week 1. We'll see how Boise State does, but as much as I like kind of the idea of parity and the equality and all those kind of things, the facts are G5 schools are they're in a different arena from the P4 ones. And that may not be exciting to say, but it's no less true, I think. And I think if that's something they want to look at going forward, that might be something that made sense. But
and that's where I would make the argument that the college football playoff can adjust. Boise State being a top 12, again, you can easily make the case. Are they top 4? Well, the way that the automatic slots were, again, that one doesn't make sense. I think about maybe one of the great bowl games where Boise State upsets, I believe, Oklahoma on the Statue of Liberty play.
Right.
You can do it. A G5 can do it for one game.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we think about that in all the old traditional bowl games. You can do it for one game. Can you run that same formula for 3 to 4? Again, that's the SEC's great argument. And again, the Big Ten's argument as well, slightly behind them. Again, we've done it for 10, 12 games in the two premier conferences, it just feels a little bit different than SMU doing it, the way the Big 12 is now. So that would be the argument for, again, the seeding of it. Boise State is a top 12 team, yes. Number 4, no. Same thing with Arizona State. Top 12 team, yes. Should they be sitting there with a bye their first round? I'm hard pressed to say yes on that one.
Yeah, that's true. Well, we'll see what happens, and we'll see how it develops, and we all look forward, of course, next weekend.
Yeah, again, there's going to be changes to the transfer portal. There's going to be changes to, I'm sure, the way they do the college football playoff. Again, that is just the state of college football as we know it right now has changed. Embrace it, make a case for it, argue it. The bonus, I know a lot of people are talking about, we had 4 big-time football games this weekend, and the little bit of extra college football that we wouldn't normally get. Again, getting our some really good fun bowl games sprinkled in there as well. Again, now we're going away from the home field advantage, which was really cool to see in some of these bowl games, to some neutral spots. Again, these traditional spots, Rose Bowl. I'm sure, what are we at the Superdome for one of them possibly? And again, kind of there's more traditional New Year's type bowl games. So it's going to be a lot of fun. But on the flip side of that, owners are going to start to look a little bit more like Grinches lately. In the coming days, there's going to be some coal in the stockings, whatever Christmas analogy you want to use. It is the time of year, Neil, where either you're seeing it happen, if it hasn't already happened, you're hearing more and more rumors of it happening. And again, as we're recording this, Neil, on a Sunday night, by the time this podcast is released, we may have some old information with the way the couple of these teams looked. So let's talk about it on the NFL landscape. It is that time of year. There are going to be, jobs that are opening up. Let's start in New York. Again, a poor performance in against the Falcons. Michael Penix, average numbers. I know they really talked about his poise. He had 1 interception, okay numbers. I think he went for 202. But again, 2 pick sixes against an offense and really team that, again, they just look like they're ready to be done. And now you're starting to hear more from the locker room. You're hearing more from, obviously, the New York media. What's going on in New York? What are you hearing?
Well, before I start, Rodrik, and I know you share this is not anything that we take any joy in. We're not rooting for anyone to lose their jobs. We're just simply passing along what we've heard and the feedback we've gotten from scouting in scouting circles. What I'm told is that the Giants staffers, scouts, evaluators, executives are a little nervous. They see change coming. I think that's certainly well-founded. It's disappointing because they've got some really highly regarded people on staff there. Will Joe Schoen survive? I don't know. If he does, there probably will be changes there at key parts of the staff, and I'm not sure. I'm not privy to what those would look like, but the sense is that if there was a change of GM, it wouldn't be a big surprise, and especially given kind of the way that they're finishing the season, it certainly certainly is giving momentum to that expectation. The Tisch side of the ownership group has always been a little bit more aggressive than the Mara side, and I think they may win out here. So we could be seeing change in the front office there. And, Joe Schoen is a guy who I think has been highly regarded for a long time, remains highly regarded, but just had a difficult situation with the timing of the decision he had to make on the quarterback that turned out to be the wrong decision. And then the decision made on the running back. And obviously Saquon Barkley has an electric season so far, has been notwithstanding today's results by the Eagles, certainly has had a great season and the Eagles have had a great season, and he's been a big part of that, and doesn't reflect so well. So I guess for all those reasons, we could see a new face in New York shortly.
Yeah. And unfortunately, the hard knock stuff has not painted that front office in any better light. Again, I would argue an unfair light because we're seeing one side of the story.
Absolutely.
But again, that is unfortunately the reality of it. Again, it is why, again, you're seeing at the college level with this SEC stuff where a bunch of teams are turning down. Again, they know that, again, all it takes is a few edits to make something look about 180 degrees different. And
Hard
so
Knocks stuff drives me crazy, and it's not going away. It's only
it's not.
it's getting bigger. And Hard Knocks doesn't tell a story. It tells a story. It doesn't
Yep.
tell the story.
No.
And often it's a very damning story and a wholly inaccurate one. So, I think football fans love Hard Knocks. Football people hate Hard Knocks, and I don't think that'll ever
100%.
change.
Yeah. Unfortunately, there's more people that love football than love Hard Knocks, and
Right.
it pays some bills, and people in New York are happy about it. So, again, it's not going away.
Yeah.
Again, any team that gets assigned Hard Knocks, put your video people on it and, tell the other side or tell a different side of the story, going forward. And, you can credit me when you go ahead and take that and do that, just bring me in to do some consulting. But we'll go away from there. So, again, New York, there's two teams in New York that could be one already expecting change in New York Jets. The Giants could be joining that train as well. Let's head south. That team that the Giants played, they had a pretty big week in the Falcons. Obviously swapping out Kirk Cousins for Mike Penix. Again, we talked about Penix's numbers, a high first round draft pick after you pay Kirk Cousins the money that he did. All indications are that Kirk Cousins is now going to be released in the offseason with that post June 1 designation, spread some money out a little bit, and you're going to start to move forward with Mike Penix as your quarterback. When you make a quarterback decision like that, again, that's part of that reason we talked about with the Giants, with Daniel Jones and everything. You pay a lot of money that could go to other assets for this offense, for the defense, for whatever it may be. You have to start thinking that somebody could be held accountable for that. Mm-hmm. Are we going to see any level of change in Atlanta? What are the rumblings you're hearing out of Atlanta?
It surprises me to hear this. I think Arthur Blank is considered one of the more patient owners out there, one of the more professional people out there among owners, the way he treats his team. But the feedback that I'm getting is that Terry Fontenot may be on thin ice as well, and may, based on the way this season ends, may kind of determine what his fate's going to be. The division's still there for him if things work out. They obviously made a bold move by making the switch to Michael Penix. We'll see what that dictates over the course of the rest of the season. But I do think, and I think as recently as a month ago, Fontenot was really safe. But I'm certainly not saying that he's done there, but I think that it remains a possibility based on several sources that I had from around the league. The feedback that they're getting from the Falcon scouts is that there's some uncertainty there. That's surprising. I think especially given the fact that you got a first-year head coach there, and a number of bold moves made by Fontenot, but we haven't seen them work out certainly the way maybe many expected them to. They were pretty much, I don't know if I would say that they were the clear-cut expected winner of the division, but you still got such a messy division with no one really wanting to assert themselves, and Atlanta remains among kind of in that murky, upper level of the division, but they certainly haven't run away with anything. And maybe there's a feeling that it's time to make a change and see if going in a different direction will help things.
Yeah. Anybody that knows my story can understand that my feelings on Terry are pretty conflicted. From a personnel and roster standpoint, outside of the Kirk Cousins, Mike Penix quarterback situation, I thought he's done a fantastic job with that roster. He's brought in some huge defensive pieces. That wide receiver room looks really good. Right. Maybe you're getting a little bit more out of the tight end room. The O-line, again, probably one of the better units is an O-line. You've got, again, it comes back to that quarterback spot. And when you pay the money that he did, the GM is going to get credited with paying to him. Again, whether that's the owner's decision, GM's decision, head coach's decision, right. All three of those guys have to be in lockstep. Again, we used to talk that, hey, the head coach and GM have to be in lockstep. For so many of these NFL teams, there is that third leg of the tripod, which is the owner. And if the three of those are not in complete lockstep, it is hard to continue to ascend and make it to the next level.
Mm-hmm.
Again, that could be the situation Terry's in. Again, that would be a surprising one for me. Again, as we started to talk about, against some of these teams, and you say Terry, again, for my conflicting personal feelings on the way my time ended in Atlanta, I thought he's done a fantastic job putting that roster together and giving Raheem the right pieces. If the quarterback performs, this is a 10, 11 win team, 12 win team. But again, they've just had such poor quarterback play. Again, that comes back to the head coach, and it comes back to the GM too. So we'll wait to see what happens in Atlanta. And again, Arthur he tasted it in 2017. He was so close. He really wants one, and so he's trying to push all those buttons to get one here. Not a young man anymore, and again, for all that Arthur's done for the league, again, I think there's a lot of people in the football world that would love to see Arthur Blank get a Super Bowl trophy, knowing what he's meant to the game of football, what he's meant to Atlanta. So again, conflicting feelings in Atlanta for me once again as we sit here talk about them. So let's go ahead and move off of them, move a little north. Tennessee. Again, they're going to be making a change at quarterback again. We've already seen it. Will Levis not going to be the guy moving forward. They've got a first-year head coach. What's going on in Tennessee?
This is a situation where it looks like the writing was on the wall for Rand Carthon as GM. There are a lot of people that expect a change to be made there. It's an unusual situation because Chad Brinker, in some ways, has superseded him at the top of the organizational structure. And I think there's always kind of been a bit of a back and forth there. It's very odd. I mean, if you go to their website, Brinker's listed over the top of Carthon. And normally the GM's kind of the guy that's the head of the football side, but in Brinker's case, that's not the situation at all. And so I think if Carthon is deposed, it may be a situation where they just kind of add the GM title to Brinker. It's the timing is just really strange. Here's a guy who just hired a head coach. He really reorganized the front office in a positive way, added A.J. Smith, added Sam Somerville, some very highly regarded evaluators, and yet the results aren't there, and it feels like the team's kind of going backwards. And so I think that's probably why we could see a change there. That's probably as close to a certainty as I have heard from the sources I've talked to across the league. It's just a front office that is in disarray is the message that I continue to hear, and I feel like they need to do something. They feel like they need to do something rather quickly before things get out of hand even more.
Yeah, that Tennessee one's interesting. I was with the Titans in 2013 for a fall season, and that was really at the transition time. Again, longtime owner passes away. It was for a time kind of some question in ownership. Amy Adams has stepped in, been involved, been over-involved at times, maybe stepping back a little bit. Again, that's another one of those situations where I think for as much as she would like to be involved in a positive way, to me, it has almost seemed like she's trying to figure out what the right level of in the mix is, which again, for a new owner that's coming from outside of football, hopefully she can figure it out, because again, a well-placed, a properly involved owner is excellent for all things, NFL franchise. But again, the overstep or, hey, I needed you here, please step in here. Again, either side of that, can cause the boat to start rocking a little bit. And again, you're talking a situation with, again, a younger first-time GM, and now we've got a young first-time head coach. Obviously, Brinker, I believe he comes from Green Bay, again, is going to have organizationally and structurally, he's going to have, you have to imagine, a lot of really positives if he were to become the guy. Again, for Rand, was given the opportunity, and again, just has been really turbulent in kind of all different ways, from a coaching staff standpoint to the way the roster's been run. So again, a lot of good people in Tennessee. Again, if there's any questions, again, it's hard to go to sleep at night. Again, scouts are on different structures, scouts are on different contracts, but again, it doesn't make it easier to go to sleep at night. And with the way the Titans are going to end the season, again, they're going to be all making sure they are on the top of their game through this process. So Let's stay in the AFC. The Las Vegas Raiders. Again, Antonio Pierce gets the interim tag taken off. They make some front office changes. The big wild card in this one, perhaps a minority owner in Tom Brady stepping in, maybe getting a little bit more involved. What are you hearing out of Sin City?
I think there's a change in head coach. I don't think there's any secret there. Mark Davis has certainly been less than he certainly hasn't given his blessing to the head coach there. If Mike Vrabel is the pick there, then there could be a change in the front office. If they bring in someone younger, maybe one of the hot assistants, someone like that, then I think that there is no change. I think they bring Tom back at least for another year, maybe longer. I think it all kind of hinges on who the head coach is and maybe how involved Tom Brady decides he wants to be. He certainly has a big voice there, and I think Mark Davis listens to him. Why wouldn't he? But until we really know what the head coach situation looks like and who's hired, it's difficult to know for sure if Telesco is going to be having a new address or not. I think certainly a lot of people were surprised when he got that job last year. He hasn't been given a lot of runway to make changes so far. They're going to be looking for another quarterback. Obviously, they're going to be hiring another head coach. How much say will he have in that? I don't know. But I really think, generally speaking, people are safe there. Speaking to the people in that front office and on that staff, they feel like they'll be safe. So I don't think there's going to be changes there again, unless one of the big names comes to coach and makes a demand like that. Hey, I've got to bring someone in that I can work with.
Yeah. Again, there's a lot of interesting dynamics there. Correct me if I'm wrong. Tom Telesco was with the New England Patriots when Tom Brady was the quarterback there. Going back to the New England days.
I don't think he was. Or I think he came off the Polian tree. I think he was with the Colts then.
Was he a Colts guy before that?
Yeah. I don't think he was part of the Patriots structure.
That Tom Brady dynamic makes everything interesting there because it kind of goes back into the if Tom Brady's involved, who's going to look across the table and tell Tom, like, Tom, I completely disagree with you there.
Right.
Again, it's going to take a certain level of tact because I'd imagine Mark is going to be looking at Tom for Tom's approval. And again, Tom may be the Caesar and they're giving you the thumbs up or thumbs down. Again, Mike Vrabel, obviously those two, Tom Brady, Mike Vrabel, played together, know each other, ran that locker room during the dynasty, and would you have to imagine be on the same page. But again, that's a minority owner. Mm-hmm. Typically has very little power, very little say. Again, Tom Brady's different in that way. So again, you've got a lot of interesting dynamics, not to mention it's still the Raiders and they do things a little bit differently with Mark Davis. So again, that's just in terms of good TV and interesting storylines to watch with, whoever they go with and whatever direction they go. Just like all these other teams, got to get the quarterback right. And again, they're probably going to be trying to answer that question. They're getting knocked today for beating the Jaguars because, again, you go from, I think, number 2 to number 6 and, take yourself out of the Shadir Sanders conversation, or, he just gets more expensive in draft capital. But again, what about let's keep going here. Let's, quick hit a couple of these. Indianapolis Colts. Again, a little bit of a surprise here that the Colts would be even listed in this group. What do you know about the Colts?
Again, another team where there's instability at the quarterback position and the GM may pay a penalty for that with Anthony Richardson's development, which has kind of been up and down. I think Chris Ballard's still safe. And I think, obviously you've got an owner in Robert Irsay who's a pretty volatile person. But what I am told is he has had some health challenges that have kind of distracted him from the day-to-day with the team. And maybe that's one reason why Ballard sticks around. He also has got a good relationship with Irsay, is my understanding, and that remains pretty strong. And so I think Chris is safe, and I think he should be. Despite the fact they haven't had great seasons the last 2 to 3 years. I mean, they're trying to develop a young quarterback. They've been kind of picking towards the middle of the draft, so they're not able to be up there right at the top and be able to pull the plums off the tree, so to speak. So I think he's still safe. I think he's still got some runway to go. There may be some changes there, but I think that Chris is definitely back for 2025.
So let's go from one Chris to another Chris down in Miami. Miami gets, again, what would seem on paper like a big win against the 49ers, but you've got two franchises there, Dolphins, 49ers, and aren't doing anything this year
Yeah.
beyond the next couple of weeks. Chris Greer, confusion on his deal. Is he safe? It looks like Mike McDaniel's going to be safe. What's going on in Miami?
I think McDaniel survives, but I'm not sure about Greer. And I've heard that, I don't know Chris. I've heard he's one of the best guys in the business. He's got a really talented staff there with Marvin Allen and Reggie McKenzie and Matt Winston and I but the feedback that I get continually is that he's probably out. And if that happens, I don't know if they um, elevate Reggie or if they do something from outside. That's still kind of an up in the air. But that was one of the everyone seems to be pretty unanimous that Greer is probably looking for a new address after this year. That's the feedback that I'm getting repeatedly.
Well, that team, again, for as talented and fun and explosive as they are, it seems like they have not gotten it done in the big games against good teams. Again, whether that is a coaching issue or whether that is a roster and GM issue, again, we'll see what the ownership group does there. Again, right. Change expected. We'll just see where it goes. Again, you start looking back through Mike McDaniel's timeline, where he's been, who he's been with. Again, you're probably looking out in San Francisco possibly to see who's out there and who may be some of those next in lines for that GM spot. Jacksonville may be going a different route here. Obviously, a disappointing year. Again, quarterback has not lived up to expectations. Now he's hurt. What's going to happen in Jacksonville? Maybe a little bit different some of these other ones.
My impression is that Trent Baalke will be allowed to retire. If he chooses not to retire, then it's going to be a decision between Doug Peterson and Trent Baalke. I don't think both survive. I think one will, but I think it's still kind of up in the air what direction they want to go, and I'm not sure exactly what the mood of the ownership is right now. If Baalke returns, I'll be surprised, but I don't have there's no certainty there. The Jaguars do things in a unique way, and even on this podcast, we have people come on and talk about how their analytics team is also part of their sales team, and they don't have one directed football analytics side. And they're really young on their scouting staff. They've got about half of their staff is first or second year as scouts, and I think that makes the job a little tougher as well. How much of it is that Trevor Lawrence really hasn't stepped forward and really, in my estimation, been worthy of the deal that of the money he's getting paid, and whose fault is that, and who's to blame, and all those kind of things. I think there's a good chance Baalke moves on after this year, but it could. He may be able to emerge in a power struggle and see Peterson leave, but him stick around for a little while longer.
Moving on to the Jets. They've had the opening for a bit now. They've done interviews. Thomas Dimitroff, Louis Riddick, Jim Nagy of the Senior Bowl. Who's the one I'm missing here? John Robinson, former of the Titans. They're doing their work on the guys that it's easy to do work on now. The guys that are not employed come in, do their thing. Are we expecting this shoe to drop sooner, or are they going to wait and make sure they get through the playoffs and do all their due diligence on these teams still playing?
I certainly expect that they're waiting for a couple people to be able to interview that are maybe don't want to interview yet, given the season, but the feedback I get is that you may have kind of a two-headed animal, similar to what the Panthers did, where you've got, Dan is kind of the football guy, but then they brought in Brant Tillis as well to be the cap guy and maybe to add some analytics to it and kind of make it a bit of a two-headed monster. My understanding is that that's similar to what they're looking for in New York, where they're going to have a football guy to come in and kind of be over the football side of it, but then have maybe a president who's the real GM, maybe a president / GM with a VP of player personnel or something like that, where again, someone who's got a lot of pull on the football side but doesn't hold the GM title per se. Kind of similar to what Mike Tannenbaum, who's heading the search with Rick Spielman, it's kind of the model that I think he had in New York as well as in Miami. So We may see that in New York, and we'll see what names emerge. I don't think they're done interviewing. I think there's still ways to go there. I don't have any information on who's next up, but I think there still will be a few more names that we all know that'll be sitting for interviews there.
The Cleveland Browns have underachieved. Deshaun Watson was a huge part of that. They're now going to their third quarterback because Jameis Winston, is entertaining and good at sound bites as he is, he throws the ball to the other team way too much. Stefanski, Andrew Berry, are we hearing anything? Is there going to be change in Cleveland?
I get everyone that comes back says they're safe. I'm that's a near certainty that Andrew Berry returns in Cleveland and Stefanski as well.
Okay, so Cleveland, no change. Again, it's a good roster. Again, you look across the board. Again, that's one that, again, you kind of scratch your head at the way they've lost these games, and if Andrew Berry hasn't gotten fired already for the Deshaun Watson contract and the way that's played out, again, you have to assume they're at least taking that mostly out of the consideration that he still has a job. So
got extended last year. I mean, he's under a new contract right now. So I think he has a reason to feel very safe right now.
Yeah. Again, another one of these Ryan Poles, the Chicago Bears. Again, we're an exciting start to the year. Won some games they shouldn't have. Now you could argue the quarterback's even playing a little bit better down the stretch, not turning the ball over, yet they have, lost 7, 8, 9 in a row. We're going to get a new head coach. Is it going to be Ryan Poles' pick at coach? Does he have the full runway to get this thing right, or are we going to see any shuffling of the cards in Chicago?
I think there's a little bit of a similarity with the Raiders, where it kind of depends on the decision that's made with the head coach. And whether it be one of the really high established ones, like a variable, or one of the hot young guys, like out of Detroit or something along those lines. And until that determination has been made, I think it's all up in the air. I think Poles' fate is still really not determined. My understanding is that there was a time when team president Kevin Warren and Poles were butting heads, but I think they are a bit more in lockstep now than they were. But it's still kind of TBA as far as who that head coach is going to be, and that will go a long ways towards saying who the GM is going to be. So that one there's still a lot in the balance there, and I'm not really sure what direction that's going to go.
Again, it would be surprising to me if Ryan Poles doesn't get to make his pick. And if he makes his pick at head coach, you have to imagine he's making somebody that allows his job to be safe. Again, there's some good pieces in place there. Got to continue to get that offensive line fixed. Again, Caleb Williams keeps taking the steps. If Caleb Williams perhaps, just ditches some of the antics, again, it's probably going to be good for that franchise, good for that football team. Some names that you think are going to get interviews that, again, whether it's kicking the tires, whether it's in combo, anybody that you expect to be having their name come across the headlines that's with the team right now?
Well, we've talked extensively about that, and I blogged about it about a month ago. There's any number of guys out there that I think deserve opportunities. We've talked about Ian Cunningham. I think he's still highly regarded. He's been interviewed a lot of times. It hasn't happened for him quite yet. I think James Lippert from the Texans remains a guy that's very popular. We've talked about Jeff Ireland in New Orleans, so I think is still really highly regarded, despite the fact their drafts have been a little bumpy over the last few years. Mike Martin with the Lions. I think I don't know why more people from the Lions. Ray Agnew, I think, as well. The assistant GM there, highly regarded. Those are some possibilities. So there are a lot of people out there that merit consideration. I expect we'll be hearing those names. We'll be seeing those names coming up pretty soon as we get closer to the end of the season and we start the interviews really kind of start happening in earnest. Ed Dodds is a guy who's won a number of BART lists and so has got a lot of respect across the league. And so those are a few just kind of off the top of my head, guys that I expect to be getting interviews and getting consideration for some of these jobs.
That's excellent. Well, for all the scouts out there, again, if you're listening to it, if you're still with us, fantastic. We love it. We appreciate it. if you're getting a little uncomfortable, again, reach out to somebody. There are scouting mentors. There are veteran scouts with teams, not with teams. There's Neil. There's myself. Again, I've talked about building a scouting community and what it could mean, what it should mean. The industry that scouts are, as close as scouts are on the road, there is a lot of siloing within teams and individually across the league. This is the time to glean information. Again, I never thought I would be sitting in the boat that I was in September 2021. And looking back, I certainly regret not reaching out and talking more. Again, reach out myself. I'm on X at RightStepADV, Neil's at Inside the League. Somebody on your staff probably has my number. Somebody on your staff probably has Neil's number if you don't already. Again, there's nothing wrong about doing a little due diligence, reaching out about, hey, just what's out there? What are other guys getting paid? What's the situation? What are contracts? The more you know, again, it's another source that you can go to. For aspiring scouts, again, if you're thinking, hey, there's going to be change, some job opportunities are going to be opening up. This is getting to the time, Neil, where you can start to get out, shake some hands, meet some people. Aspiring scouts, current scouts, new agents. We got all-star games coming up. We got the combine coming up. Neil, in your opinion, what are the spots that these people, if you want to meet, network, do all these things, where should they be going and what should they be doing?
Well, if you're talking about people who are aspiring to be scouts, who are trying to break into the league, I don't think there's anywhere that's more valuable than the All-Star games, generally speaking. The Senior Bowl obviously brings out the best when it comes to all the executives, all the scouts, everyone being there. It's not as big, certainly, as it used to be. It's not a situation where every coach from every team is there. You can get a good seat at a table at almost any restaurant whenever you want to in Mobile, whereas in the old days, you're looking at an hour wait, around dinner time. But it's still a place to kind of to see and be seen when it comes to football. I'll tell you, the rising one is the Shrine Bowl, though. I mean, I really credit Eric Galco for the job he's done there. The league has really gotten behind the game. The access there is still really good, whereas the access has been curbed significantly at the Senior Bowl. And it's just, I don't know, it's just a great environment. People seem to be really upbeat about it. They like the directions that things are going. The facilities are second to none. I mean, the Star is just such an outstanding place for football, and the indoor practice facility is better than a lot of stadiums. It's a great place to be. And, if you're aggressive about applying and you get your name in quickly enough, then that could be an opportunity as well. But really, the Tropical Bowl, the Hula Bowl, the CGS all offer opportunities. And because those three games are a little smaller in stature, they tend to have even better access. And so if you're smart about how you approach things and you're there at the right time and you've got the right kind of attitude, then it's a great way to make connections and kind of build your network and maybe meet the person who's going to be your champion and help you get into the league that way.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're going to get out there, do all you can to set up some meetings, set up some bump ins,
Right.
Set it up to where you are going to have the chance. Hey, I shot you a text. Here I am in person. Just wanted to say hi. Hey, scouts, I know you're doing work. Again, always being mindful of that, but
Really
picking your spots to do that. Again, have to think about getting to the combine as well. Make sure you keep an eye on the date for Neil's Inside the League seminar. Get to hear the Bart Award winners. That'll be a really good spot to walk through and see a bunch of the up and coming award winners with all those, as well as hear some really good insight on a number of topics from any number of good people. So you're going to hear about that in Neil's Friday Wrap. Make sure you sign up for that. Again, Neil, on your X page, is that the best spot on your website? Where's the best spot to sign up for the wrap and make sure you're aware of all your events?
Blank's right there on our Twitter account, and it's usually place it within the body of our blog each week, succeededfootball.com. So there's places to find it. If you can't find it, DMs are open. Don't hesitate to reach out, and we'll make sure we get you where you need to be so you can sign up for the wrap.
Awesome. Again, if you're not following Neil, if you're not signed up for the Friday Wrap newsletter, you need to, again, reach out to me, reach out to Neil. DMs are open. Again, like I said, a lot of you have our numbers already, so hit us up, hit us text messages. And whether it's that next wave, whether you want to do some one-on-one film watching, learn about the scouting world, Neil, myself, again, we're going to be able to be there for you and help you, learn all the ropes of what scouting is. And hopefully you'll be a year from now sitting in a December meetings talking about players and getting ready for the 2026 draft. And I know everybody is still looking forward to the 2025 draft here. So a lot of football still to happen here next couple of weeks, whether NFL, college, transfer portal, rosters are going to change, take shape, and a lot of good football still to happen.
Absolutely. And, again, we take no joy in the changes that are happening, but they certainly change is the only constant these days, unfortunately. And so, Rodrik, you having gone through these changes, I never have been a scout myself, but I certainly have been on the other side of it, and I've had to talk to people, after these things happen. So,
agents, before we go, make sure you go check out Agent Live 360. It is at agentlive360.com for everything you need for your agency, from players to coaches, managing profiles, tracking invoices, sending invoices, getting paid, keeping up on every element of your entire agency. Notification emails, file folder storage, ROI, transactions, invoices, calendar, contracts, teams, reps, everything all in one spot for you. That is Agent Live 360. Hop on, request a demo. Yours truly will hop on, walk you through it. I can promise you we will talk some football as well. Sign up now with code TRIAL90 for a 90-day, 3-month trial at just $10 a month for Agent Live 360. That's at agentlive360.com. Go check it out now. Well, that does it for Neil and I this week on Scouting the League. We hope you have a Merry Christmas. Thank you for being with us all of 2024. Can't believe, Neil, it's almost 2025. It is unbelievable. Another year just flies by. We will have, I believe we'll get one more episode in before the end of the new year. I'd imagine you want to tune in for that as we talk all things football. But again, we appreciate you. Make sure you head over, find us, like us, subscribe us, watch our videos, share them, get them out there. Merry Christmas. You know the words. Keep scouting.